POV, you were born in Spain in 1995, and this is your whole life. You were born in 1995. An ordinary apartment block in an ordinary Spanish city. Your family is not rich and not poor. Your father works construction. Your mother works in a small shop. Every Sunday, the whole extended family crowds around one table. The lunch lasts 3 hours. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone shows up every single week. Nobody needs an invitation. This is not a special occasion. This is just Sunday. In the afternoons, the shutters come down. The streets empty out. The siesta is not laziness. It is a truce the entire country makes with the heat. Your grandparents' generation built their whole day around it. Yours still half honors the habit. Your grandparents lived through decades of dictatorship before you were ever born. Then they watched their own country turn into a democracy within their own lifetime. That transition is recent enough that some of your oldest relatives still lower their voices at certain names. You grow up speaking 2 languages before you can properly write either one. Spanish at school. Whatever the street and the television actually sound like. Spain itself is really several countries stitched into one. Different languages, different flags, different festivals depending on which corner you were born into. You grow up eating paella, or fabada, or pulpo a la gallega. You are convinced your own region's food is the best in the entire country. You will hold that opinion for the rest of your life without ever seriously questioning it. Football is not a hobby in your house. It is closer to a second religion, argued about at the Sunday table louder than anything else on the agenda. You pick a team before you can really explain why. You will defend that choice for the rest of your life. Depending on which team you picked, you spend your whole life worshiping or despising the same golden generation of players. Names most of the world would recognize by first name alone. The rivalry between the country's 2 biggest clubs turns ordinary Sunday nights into something closer to a national event. Twice every season. In the year 2000, you are 5 years old. The peseta, the only currency your parents and grandparents have ever known, starts being quietly phased out. 2 years later, the coins in your pocket are euros. Your grandmother still converts prices back to pesetas in her head for the rest of her life. She mutters that everything got more expensive the day the money changed. Whether or not that was actually true. Throughout your early childhood, cranes are everywhere. Your father's industry, construction, is one of the loudest engines in the entire Spanish economy. Cheap credit turns empty plots of land into apartment blocks almost overnight. Everyone you know seems to be buying property, certain that prices can only ever climb. Nobody around you calls it a bubble yet. Every December 22nd, the entire country stops. Children sing out lottery numbers on live television for hours. The entire country stops. Children sing out lottery numbers on live television for hours. El Gordo, the fat one, the world's oldest continuously running lottery, stops. Children sing out lottery numbers on live television for hours. El Gordo, the fat one, the world's oldest continuously running Children sing out lottery numbers on live television for hours. El Gordo, the fat one, the world's oldest continuously running lottery, the closest thing your family has to a shared national superstition. Every spring, hooded penitents in tall pointed capes walk in silence through your town streets. Semana Santa. They carry elaborate religious floats on their shoulders for hours at a time. It looks like nothing else on earth to outsiders. It looks like nothing unusual at all to you. On March 11th, 2004, you are 9 years old. 10 bombs go off on 4 commuter trains in Madrid during the morning rush hour. 192 people are killed. Nearly 2,000 more are wounded. It is the deadliest terrorist attack in Spain's modern history. 3 days before a national election. In the chaotic hours afterward, the government first points to Basque separatists. Then evidence instead reveals an Islamist cell, inspired by Al-Qaeda. The confusion and the sense that officials tried to shape the story before the truth was known helps swing the election 3 days later. It removes the government that had taken Spain into the Iraq War over the objections of most of the country. You do not fully understand what happened. You understand that every adult around you goes quiet, in a way you have never seen before. The date itself, 11M, becomes a phrase your whole country will carry for the rest of your life. Millions march in the streets in the days after, standing shoulder to shoulder, in a silence you will not properly understand until you are older. Your childhood keeps moving forward anyway, because childhood always does. You spend your afternoons on whatever patch of concrete or dirt is closest, playing football until it is too dark to see the ball. In the summer of 2008, you are 13. The national team wins the European Championship for the first time in 44 years. Strangers hug each other in the street. Cars honk in celebration until well past midnight. 2 years later, in 2010, Spain wins the World Cup for the very first time in its history. You watch it on a television dragged out into the street, surrounded by neighbors you have known your whole life. For one single night, the entire country feels like it is exactly the same age as you. 2 years after that, in 2012, that same golden generation wins the European Championship again. The first team in history to hold the World Cup and 2 European titles at once. Back to back to back. For a few short years, your national team is simply the best in the world. Full stop. No argument necessary, even at the loudest Sunday table. That same year, 2010, you start noticing your parents talking in a different tone after the news. The word crisis is suddenly everywhere. Spain's construction boom, the one your own father's job depended on, collapses almost overnight. Youth unemployment climbs past 40% within a few years, among the worst in the entire European Union. You are a teenager, watching adults you love lose work that once felt permanent. Families who bought homes during the boom can no longer keep up the payments. Evictions, desahucios, become a word on the news almost every single week, sometimes ending with a notice taped to a door just streets away from your own. The same banks that handed out mortgages so easily a few years earlier are bailed out by the government. Ordinary families lose their homes anyway. You are old enough to notice how unfair that looks, even if you cannot yet fully explain why. Some of your older cousins, freshly graduated, cannot find a single job in their own field. They move back in with their parents. It is so common by now that your language quietly invents an insult for people exactly like them. Ni, neither studying nor working, even when it is not remotely their fault. As a teenager yourself, your Friday and Saturday nights already follow a script practically every kid your age already knows by heart. Cheap bottles, bought and shared with the same group of friends in a park or a plaza. Then hours on a bar terrace that never quite empties out before 2 in the morning. Nobody in this country considers a summer night finished any earlier than that. In May of 2011, when you are 16, thousands of people occupy the central square of Madrid in protest. Many of them barely older than you. They call themselves Los Indignados, the indignant ones. It spreads to plazas in nearly every Spanish city within days, tents and banners staying up for weeks. You watch some of your own older cousins camp out in tents in the middle of the city, demanding an economy that has any place left in it for people their age. In October of 2017, you are 22. The region of Catalonia holds an independence referendum the national government has already declared illegal. Riot police are sent in to shut down polling stations. Images of officers striking people trying to cast a ballot are broadcast around the world within hours. Catalan leaders declare independence weeks later. The national government responds by taking direct control of the region's own government. For the first time in decades, families up and down the country find themselves arguing about it at their own Sunday tables. The same table that has never once in your entire life actually managed to agree on politics. You finish school into a country that keeps telling people exactly like you, politely and constantly, that there may not be enough room for you here. Some of your friends start learning German or English, packing a single suitcase for London or Berlin or anywhere that is hiring. Your country has a name for this too: Fuga de Cerebros, the brain drain. Over the following decade, more than 500,000 Spaniards under 30 leave the country for work. An entire generation quietly exported. You are one of the ones who stays, taking whatever work exists, still living in your parents' apartment well into your 20s. Not because you failed at anything, because an entire generation of you did the math and found it did not add up any other way. Even those of you who do find steady work often earn so little that an entire term exists for it. Mileurista, someone whose entire monthly salary barely clears €1,000. A label an entire generation of educated, hard-working young Spaniards wears without ever having asked for it. Nobody around you considers this shameful. It has simply become normal. The same way the siesta or the Sunday lunch is normal. Just a fact of the world you were born into. In March of 2020, a virus reaches Spain. Within days, your entire country is placed under one of the strictest lockdowns in all of Europe. For weeks, you are not legally permitted to leave your home for anything beyond groceries or medicine. No walks, no exercise outside, nothing. Hospitals in Madrid fill up so quickly that an ice rink is converted into a temporary morgue within the same month. Refrigerated trucks line up outside some of the city's largest facilities. Doctors and nurses work impossible hours through equipment shortages that make international news. Every evening at 8 o'clock, you go out onto your balcony anyway. So does everyone else on your street. Clapping for hours, for doctors and nurses you have never met. Someone's grandfather plays the trumpet from his window. An entire apartment block sings together across the open air. Voices bouncing between balconies that had barely spoken to each other in years. For a few strange months, the loneliest lockdown of your life is also one of the most connected moments your street has ever had. The lockdown does not just cost you your freedom to leave the house. It cost the entire country nearly 11% of its economy in a single year. One of the deepest recessions anywhere in Europe, landing on a generation that had barely finished recovering from the last one. By the time you are in your late 20s, a new crisis has quietly taken the old one's place. Rent in the cities climbs so far beyond local wages that the streets fill with protest again. This time over housing itself rather than unemployment. The economy recovers on paper long before it ever recovers inside your own bank account. In July of 2026, you are 31 years old. You watch your country win the World Cup for a second time in your life. A single extra-time goal from Ferran Torres, beating Argentina. 16 years after the first one, you watch it the same way you did as a teenager. Surrounded by people in the street, the whole country breathing in and out together for one single night. The boy who once watched that first trophy on a television dragged outside is now a grown man, watching the same thing happen all over again. You are an adult now. You have lived through a terrorist attack, a construction boom that collapsed into the worst crisis in a generation, a stolen decade of opportunity for people exactly your age, a pandemic that locked an entire nation onto its own balconies. You have watched your country win football trophies that made strangers embrace in the street. You have watched that same country fail an entire generation of its own young people, almost as completely. Some of your closest friends still live abroad, sending money home. Building lives your own country once made too hard to build here. You stayed, the way your family always stays, gathering at that same Sunday table that has never once, in your entire life, stopped filling up. You still speak 2 languages. Still half honor the siesta out of habit. Still argue about football and politics at the same table where none of it is ever fully resolved. Probably never will be. None of it. The bombings, the crisis, the eviction notices, the empty balconies, ever quite cancels out the other half of the story. A country that, given the smallest excuse, will still empty into the streets to celebrate as one. You were born in Spain in 1995, and this is your whole life. table that has never once, in your entire life, stopped filling up. You still speak 2 languages. Still half honor the siesta out of habit. Still argue about football and politics at the same table where none of it is ever fully resolved. Probably never will be. None of it. The bombings, the crisis, the eviction notices, the empty balconies, ever quite cancels out the other half of the story. A country that, given the smallest excuse, will still empty into the streets to celebrate as one. You were born in Spain in 1995, and this is your whole life.